Welcome into Sports Idiot Nation. Today is Monday, April 21st, and NBA playoffs. We had a game that the winning team only had a 5-point lead, and that didn't come until overtime. Meanwhile, Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend is now COO of Belichick Productions. So that's a sentence I just said. And Aaron Rodgers. He still hasn't told the world what he's doing because mystery is more important than the NFL draft, apparently.
That's right. I'm Memphis J from Hoops Idiot Nation, and this is sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots.
This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots. Welcome, sinners. This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Yes, it is that time. It is Monday. We come to you every Monday and Thursday. This is Sports Idiot Nation. Welcome in the weekly recap show that comes to you twice a week. You heard Memphis J call it out. Sports, comedy, pop culture, everything in between. Get your gear, get your... Which, by the way, I wore my shirt for you, buddy.
Nice.
Your team sucks. I mean, we'll probably start there. So Memphis J is joining us from Hoops Idiot Nation. Follow on social media. Follow Sports Idiot Nation on social media, of course. And then shout out to all of the multiverse of the Idiotverse. And Memphis J helps us out and runs Hoops Idiot Nation. And there was a lot of idiocracies in the NBA. So let's start there because I just got a notification. I have a smartwatch here, and it just told me Memphis is down another bucket.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's not looking good.
No, it's
But
not
you're
looking good. We probably
still
missed
wearing the
another
t-shirt
three.
though.
Right.
Yeah.
I am.
just gave up.
And this is the good luck super old Gasol. Like
Gasol.
I pull out from like when we used to be playing OKC against a totally different squad, with a totally different squad. But yeah, today is one of those ones where I don't know, like they were talking about it on the analysts after, like, do you watch film or do you not? Do you just forget this or do you like make the people look at this? And yeah, you just gotta kind of like move on, and
you can't be in a bad mood playing the next game. You gotta it doesn't matter if you lose by 10 or by 50. They lost by more than 50. They lost by 51. So that's a thing. But you can't even you can watch. I'll say this rotationally. If there's things that, okay, hey, when this guy has the ball, we want to trap this way, not that way. And when this guy has the ball, we want to shade him left at the free throw line, but drop down once he, those are real things. I know that just from coaching high school, that like that's a thing. So they may need to tweak that, but they would do that whether they won by 51 or lost by 51. That would. But other than that, they don't need to like dissect everything and like, oh, their footwork. And it's not about their footwork. It wasn't about any of that. I will say this. Here's what it could be about. The other team's pretty good. I mean,
they are.
I mean, could we give them any credit or no?
No, absolutely. I definitely, they played a better game, and the teams seemed kind of even through the first 10 minutes or so. Memphis was running up and down with them. I don't want to dig too deep into this one. I have to watch playoff games, especially my team's playoff games, in the garage, away from the kids as much as possible, because
away from
I
humans.
can handle a regular season game and just watching it, but like I'm a different animal in the playoffs. I'm picking on everything, like that was a foul. Like you're I know we're not the team. I know we're not at home, blah blah blah, but that's a foul. And like, so I don't want to sit here and say like there were many times where I think like we could have gotten a couple of calls that we didn't get. I really feel like they kind of didn't start calling too many fouls until the fourth quarter, when we had second string guys in, and it was a little bit more egregious because people were just grabbing them from behind and like, kind of holding them down. It's like, dude, they're up 50 and they're still getting to bear hug us. Like, we're supposed to be the Bears. Like, this is not fair.
Yeah.
But I'll be honest, and if there's any diehard Grizzlies fans that don't want to hear me say it, this has been a tough year. It's been a tough go as a Grizzlies fan the last few years. Even though we've had some success, we've never really been able to get past that first round of the playoffs. We kind of keep getting matchups that are against, not just maybe better teams, but super big market teams where there's times where those superstars get calls that Desmond Bain does not get, or in some of our cases, a second string guy is just getting tossed to the side, and it's like, okay, well, keep playing. It's tough as a fan, but then there's times where, like, I will say this as well. This is the first and only game in a while that hurt as much as like me losing a second and third grade basketball team, 27-8, because that's how some of my games would go. And it's just like you could see the look on Memphis's coach's face halfway through it where he was just like, okay, okay, okay. You're just gonna alley-oop right there in front of me, and it's like y'all are getting fast breaks, because I think Memphis had 0 fast break points in that game, which is so not only uncharacteristic, it's just like, did we even show up and play? I don't know. I think a lot of that was just the way the game was going, and when we weren't getting shots to fall from the outside, and you weren't getting shots to fall inside or any calls, you're just kind of like, well, all right, well, this is when I still got to clock in for my 8 hours on a Thursday, and, that's why I get paid the bucks.
22 turnovers does not help
Yeah.
the situation. And yes, you got out fast breaked by 22 points, and
Right.
assists were double, 36 to your 18. I mean, they were sharing the ball. They out rebounded you. It was rough.
They came in super fresh, and it showed. Memphis has fought 2 hard games to even get into where they're at. I said in the first quarter as I was watching it, even when we were still kind of hanging in there, I was like, this is going to be a tough series to watch, and then it just got tougher to watch. I try really hard to stay watching as much of those kind of, even in a blowout like that. When Memphis was terrible, the year or 2 or so before we got Ja, and the year before we got Jaren Jackson Jr., we were just bottom of the barrel, getting beat by everybody. I watched almost all of those games. Any of them that I could on a regular, I would. Even when they hurt, it was just like, hey, I like basketball that much. I like watching young guys, or when we were digging into, 30, 40 people on a team to make it through a season. It was like, well, at least let's watch the shit show, see what happens.
It was a terrible show for sure. The 5th biggest margin of victory in an NBA playoff game in history. I want to move.
Not what you want on the noon ABC game when you don't get that many anymore because of your, superstar situations and stuff.
Now, speaking of that, here's what you do want on a Saturday night. You do want Denver Clippers overtime. You do want that.
That was a good game.
That game, here's a good stat for you. You ready for this one?
All right.
The Denver Nuggets' largest lead of the game was 5 points, and it came with 10 seconds left in overtime.
Right.
So when they hit a shot, it became 5. The Clippers shot a 3 at the end, which was meaningless, to cut it to 2 points, and the final was 112-110. Which, how about a final of 112-110 even in regulation would be low, I feel like. And this was, I mean, you could just tell playoff basketball is a thing. I mean, you look at, we'll get into the Warriors and the Rockets, their score. But in overtime, for a team to only score 110 points with an extra 5 minutes is crazy. But Denver, that home court advantage is a thing, absolutely, because they were losing the whole game. They had one lead when it was like 13-10, something like that, right? Was their only lead. They were losing the entire game, came back to grab the lead, and their largest lead was 5 points. That is crazy. That is where you give the edge to the home team in that, because the crowd, the energy in that building was nutty. And I'm not a fan of either team, but I'm a fan of basketball, and I was locked in. That game was insane, especially when every single game on Saturday, here were the following scores: 117-98, 123-112, and 117-95. Terrible. And the only game that didn't go the way it should have was the late game, the Lakers, which let's move to there. So the Lakers lose and only score 95 points at home, and the Timberwolves drop 117 on them. I mean, that I did not expect that. I mean, in the second quarter alone, it was 38-20 in the second quarter. That's tough in the playoffs to come back.
I was pretty surprised that the Timberwolves ran the Lakers as easy as they did that first game.
And Luka
I
had
thought
37.
this was going to be a good season to a good playoff series to watch, and I hope it still is. But man, they kind of exposed the Lakers there, coming from the lower seed, and just beat up on them. But I guess Ant's done a better job of backing up whatever he's talking than other people back up what they're talking. Because he said he was going to send them to the beach early. You could find that coverage on Sports Idiot Nation, I believe. But yeah, so he's holding them to his word, or he's a man of his word, I should say.
They did that also on the fast break end, as they outscored the Lakers 25-6, very similar to what happened to Memphis. Now, I do see this series going, nowhere near a sweep or anything like that. It is a big deal that I think the Lakers lose home court advantage. And speaking of that, we were before the show talking about you have no love lost between either Houston or Golden State. So you're watching that game last night as it's coming down kind of to the wire, and you're just like, you mentioned to me that like, could both teams like just go into the ocean and not come back?
Right. At least for the duration of the game, forfeit it, give it to somebody else, or no, I like some players on Houston, and I like
they got young
Jimmy
guys.
Butler. They do have a lot of young guys. I don't know a lot about their coaches or anything. As far as the Warriors, I mean, Curry's a great player, and I do really like Jimmy Butler. I've enjoyed watching him and kind of his grittiness as a player. He always kind of is all over the place, doing the things that don't always show up on the stat sheets. And as a player myself, that's kind of what I find myself ever doing on the court, is I'm the little white guy in the corner that you only throw it to if there's like 3 people in front of you. If there's 2, you still shoot, because it's the rec leagues, and it's all about your highlights you're never going to see again. So just leave me hanging in the corner. But no, when I get my opportunities, I got to work them out. And Jimmy Butler's one of those guys that's like all over the place getting it. But no, it's that was a game as far as the Rockets. I actually thought the Rockets were going to hang in there a little better.
Man, they had a fierce
than
comeback,
the Warriors.
man.
And I wonder if it's some of it is just the experience coaching. Because I wonder also with the Memphis game, I don't guess the OKC coach has a ton of experience because they've gotten a new coach within the last year or two, so he must be still fairly new. But anytime you're going up against Steve Kerr, it is what it is. And in the current coaches out there, there's only a couple of other ones that are coaching that you're going to be as kind of, if you were a coach or a player, intimidated against, because there's not a lot of crazy things you could throw at Kerr in the first round that he probably hasn't played through himself or dealt with as a head coach or lower, So I know the Knicks and Pistons is the only other game we didn't talk about from last night. I guess it's Eastern Conference, so do we even care? But I'm kidding.
Every single, here's the one thing I'll say about the Eastern Conference. Every single game went the way that it was supposed to. And guess what I did the math for you. Guess what the average margin of victory for the Eastern Conference matchup was? Just take a guess.
10 points.
16.
16, yeah, dang. Okay.
That's bad. That's not really that watchable. I mean,
right. It gets boring unless it's your team and you've got commitment.
The Magic, like, they kind of hit some shots at the end, but Boston, there was no chance in that game that you ever felt like, well, if Orlando makes a stop right here, they could get back in it. No,
it just looked like, okay, you could tell Orlando squeaked in to the 7 or 8 spot.
Yeah, it's not.
The West was a different story. Everybody was fighting to get into those final spots, except for the very, very bottom. But yeah, you could see the level difference in that Boston game. I mean, again, part of that is the team, the culture, and got to be the coaching, because I think the playoffs is where you really kind of notice coaching also take a step up in, level of how much it matters. There's definitely, or there should be, by the time you get to the playoffs, a little bit more like, let me get strategic about this and put the right people on. If you're not, then you're not being a good coach, I would have to think, on an NBA level. If you don't have somebody, or you're not doing that thinking, what are you doing?
Now, we're talking about Orlando, and just like I said, it goes to show in that game, there was just never a time where you thought, well, if they make a stop here, because we talked about Houston and Golden State. That game was written all over it in the second half, that you were like, well, if Houston does this, here they come. And so talking about Orlando, how they even got there against Atlanta, and I text this, we got to add you to the text thread, because me, Miles, and T.I., shout out to those guys normally with us on a Monday. Today I'm just graced by Memphis J's ugly t-shirt. But here's what I texted these guys, and I want to get your take on this. This is regarding it was what, Wednesday or Thursday, whatever day that was. Or no, it was Friday, I guess.
Yeah, just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, just a couple days ago, when Atlanta and Orlando played for the final play-in to see who would get the Celtics, right? So I texted and I said, watching this game is hilarious. Miles knows exactly what I'm talking about. Miles and I coached together middle school and high school basketball. So Miles knows what I'm talking about. It's like going to an 8th grade basketball game. You settle in your seat. You talk to the other parents. Hey, how's Hayden's ankle? Oh, good. Did you hear Braden got detention? Oh, man, I hope Tyler gets to play a little bit more this game. So you're eating your popcorn that is extra salty because it's actually from the last game last Tuesday. So you look up and you notice the JV game is still going on. And no one's running a play. It's every person that shoots a 3 has no business shooting a 3. Every person who dribbles has no business dribbling, but they are fired up. These kids, they're probably not going to make their high school team in a couple years. They're just out there running around, but the parents are fired up. The coaches are fired up. And that was watching Atlanta play Miami. to be the 8th seed is the
Right.
exact same thing. And what happens? Overtime. And you're like, you're
Right.
just getting ready for the varsity game. You're like, oh gosh, overtime. That's the worst thing that can happen when you go to a basketball game and there's a pregame beforehand. Like, just, oh,
Right.
let these guys play, like the JV guys. Okay. You show up for the game and overtime. You're like, why'd you let these guys have overtime? We don't want to see any more of this. And that was
Right.
how it was. It was the same. Like, they were all fired up. Like, the crowd. Like, you're like, okay, cool. Congratulations. You're now
Right.
the 8th
It's
seed.
kind of
Like, it's.
no. I feel you. It kind of reminded me as you were saying that of like you're fighting for the Losers Cup, or at the same
Yeah,
time,
but
it
you're
reminds
hype.
me of that. Who was it? And all due respect to him, he's grown on me now. I hated him at the time, but when Patrick Beverly like hopped up onto the table and threw his jersey in Minnesota, and it was like, you just made the playoffs. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Like,
it was kind of like pouring the champagne on you meme. Like, okay, way to go. I would be hyped in the same situation. I think it was the first time they had gone to the playoffs in a few many years, so
a few
I
decades,
understand the
maybe.
implications. But it was
Yeah.
still just kind of like,
You're like,
yeah, like
dude, like, come on.
overreaction, kind of. Okay, buddy.
It
But
pretty much
yeah,
the same.
the
So
Losers Cup winner of the
it
Losers Cup.
like, congratulations, you're in the
Hey, but
East.
Memphis got that same thing, so shouts to the Losers Cup. We
But it's
this year we
different in the
squeaked
West.
by our chinny chin
But
chin.
it's different in the
Yeah,
West. That's my point. Is the Eastern Conference is just not what the Western Conference is. So it's completely different.
that does
But
bring us back to where we were before we started thinking about the East versus the West. You're right. You're right. It is a difference, but man, the West really tightened up there. It was crazy. There was a time when Memphis was the
one or two
2, and then the
games.
3, and then the 4, and then it was just like, oh crap, we're the 8. How did that happen? And then we were back to the 4 or 5 for a minute, and we talked about that in other podcasts how crazy it was there by the very end. But I think that's also good. It kind of shows, I mean, at least numbers wise, a little bit more parity in the league where teams are getting better. I know we not argued, but talked about whether or not it may also mean there's less emphasis on the regular season games. Then, we always know it's going to be like that. The regular season is one level and playoffs are another, but kind of doesn't seem like sometimes people care to drop a couple of regular season games here and there when it's early in the season. Oh, it's a mini game season. I'll keep playing.
Comes
But like
back and
by the
bites you.
end, it gets crazy. So for sure.
Yeah. So the two things I can point to that is, one, Golden State beating Memphis about 2.5 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If you look at what happened now, firing the coach certainly is a weird move and doesn't help the situation.
Yeah.
But all that to say, that gave us the tiebreaker that if we ended up tied, that we would jump you. And
Right.
it just, the tone of the Memphis Grizzlies since that game was just streaking down, not up. And you're a little bit limping into the playoffs, I feel like. And then, congrats, you get to play a team who has a chance to beat you by 50. And so, and then
now I
the
really
other
wish we
thing,
could have gotten Golden State in that first play-in game. That was a close game, and we were fighting it. And that's one of those things where it's like we were still in that game and holding our own. I wonder if we had gotten Houston, would the matchup be a little bit different for the Grizzlies? Would we be able to go a little bit deeper? Because I'm not calling our season now, but Memphis, like I said, I'm a fan who's watched games when we're getting blown out and almost knew we were going to lose from the tip off due to personnel. But it's also this has been a tough year where I knew, like, I mean, if we matched up somebody like OKC, we haven't beat them once this regular season. We really don't have a very solid record against any top 2 or 3 seed teams in either conference. So I'm not talking a whole bunch of shit as a Grizzlies fan. this year. I'm glad to see we're in the playoffs and we're not, down in the dumps, like some other teams fans are feeling. But it's still tough. I just hope we can show a little bit more fight in the next game, even if it is back in OKC. But dude, man, we just played a game 2 days ago, and most of them have been off for over a week. Some of them I heard since like early April, April, 5th or 7th or 10th or something. So a lot of their stars have been resting the whole last few weeks of the season. So it's understandable. They're going to come in there ready to play some basketball. I know I heard them saying something. I didn't notice it until they mentioned it, that they were throwing some zone defense at them, and you don't see that as much. So I wonder if that kind of threw off the beginning. But I thought we were holding our own in the very beginning. We had it was a terrible game all the way around. I don't know how early or at exactly what point the major stars of the Grizzlies completely gave up, but it definitely was probably before the first half was over.
When they put their shorts on and came out of the tunnel.
Oh man! All right.
No,
I gotcha.
I mean, you would have
No,
to give
I
me
hear
if I
you.
lost
It was
by
that. I
51.
mean, that was. Anytime it's a historic loss, or they have to say like worst ever, or this or
Fifth
that, I'm
largest,
just kind of like, dang it, you got Memphis's name attached to that bad stat, because we got a lot of them. Like one of Kobe's highest scoring games. I think somebody tied it. Shea tied it this year against us or something. But it is what it is, man. Basketball is one of those sports where it can happen really fast. A team can get away from you. And there's, of course, it matters what's happening and the gameplay, but sometimes factors outside of just the immediate gameplay can really kind of throw a game into a feeling where you're just like, okay, I got no chance at this. And when you're not hitting any shots, you feel like you're not getting any calls. And nobody has any love for you in the building, because I'm sure there weren't a whole lot of Grizzlies fans there. I didn't see anything but white t-shirts and towels or whatever they were swinging around. It looked like looked like a college arena, with nobody for your side in the place. So
yeah,
I'm like they are probably just shaking this off, resting up and trying to get ready for the next one. I hope we'd at least get a game or two here and make it interesting before. I hope it's not 4 games of that. I'll put it like that. I mean, to say this is the first game I've felt as bad as when I was losing as a coach, that's a big deal, because even your favorite team losing doesn't hurt like getting beat as a coach hurts. Because like, even if it doesn't matter and it's youth sports, I'm going to tell you from the coach's side, we're going to be like, oh, it's no big deal. We're just here for, competition and having fun and testing skills. And we're going home and wanting to cry on a Saturday, when our team, especially when you get blown out or you just get run out of the gym like today. We definitely, yeah. Just move on,
Yeah. Watch 1.7 seconds of the film, get your tweaks down that you need, and throw it away for sure. Hopefully you have a better game before Thursday, because Thursday is the first home game, which Thursday is where you have the Titans taking the number 1 pick, and so Tennessee is just going to be on full display for America. And next episode on Thursday, by the way, Sports Idiot Nation, we will give you all things draft knowledge and have some fun talking about other kind of drafts and things like that.
Sounds fun.
Remember the racial draft on Dave Chappelle?
Yes.
Tiger Woods, and we'll probably talk some of that. Like, that was so intelligent for Dave Chappelle to do that. You know what I mean? When he first did that was mind-blowing stuff. Like,
it was because it was one of those things where you were like, wait, you can do that. You're gonna
Yeah,
put this
you won't
sketch out
get
there like
canceled. Yeah, like
somebody said it was
that's
okay. Yeah, and it was
right,
before you could even like canceled was a thing we said had a word for, let's say. But
right.
yeah, you definitely got that feeling
It
of
was
like,
edgy.
whoa,
Should I
Comedy Central,
should I be
you're green
laughing?
lighting this? Is this
Yeah,
okay?
should I
But
be
like, yeah,
laughing at this? I don't know, but yeah, so that was a fun draft. So we'll probably talk through some of those and then get you ready for the NFL draft. Reminder to follow Sports Idiot Nation and everything across the Idiot verse, of course, Memphis J who runs Hoops Idiot Nation. I want to shift gears to just this is what you can count on with Sports Idiot Nation. This is like classic Sports Idiot Nation right here because this is one of the weirdest
let's get weird.
yeah, let's
Let's
get
get
weird. Let's
weird.
do it with Jordan Hudson. She is 24 years old, which is a little bit older than some of the kids who played a foosball for Bill Belichick. So it's got to be weird that she is now the COO, the Chief Operating Officer of Belichick Productions. And she's taking over some day-to-day activities. Who knows what that means? But here's what it does mean. It means that a woman with a slender body, with a, I'll say, reasonable, pretty face. She's not the hottest 24-year-old girl you've ever seen. That's for sure. But the
Sure.
point is, you have her walking around campus and the practice field or whatever, and you got dudes who are close to the same age.
Oh yeah.
Just like
Oh
out,
yeah.
like I just think that's such a weird dynamic. Let alone the age difference of her boyfriend, who is Bill Belichick. I mean,
Sure.
his son is much older. Like, let alone him. It's
Right.
just that is got to be one of the weirdest college football stories going on right now.
It is. I agree. I'm sure part of this is financial motives, so he can pay her and
A billion percent.
allocate money without having to
Yeah.
not say what it's for, but not make it look like he's just sugar daddy in 100%.
Yeah.
But I guess this is her NIL right now.
Exactly.
But yeah, the
College is
fact
the
that
wild,
he's got
wild
her
west.
name, image, and likeness running around in front of a bunch of football players who have to be a little bit more interesting than, let's say, the crypt keeper in the office up there, asking her. But then again, he is known for doing crazy stuff with film and camera people, and so maybe there's a 4D Belichick move where she's going to be sneaking into other people's. I'm just allegedly throwing out crazy ideas here, but no, who knows? It is a weird situation, like you said. What is going on other than some checks getting cashed? I guess like we spoke before the show, I don't know a whole lot about the situation, but so forgive me if I'm not really saying they're doing anything improper. I'm just joking, but she was part of his team on doing filming for his social media or something. So maybe she really does have credentials, and I'm a big idiot, which is
I'll say
big
this,
possibility.
dude. I'll say this, dude. Most 24-year-olds have credentials to run social
Sure.
media. At
Yeah.
24, that's your highlight of like, the TikTok and all the like,
But if
you
you're at the
know,
top of a production company, then are well. Then also, I guess the next question would be, what is Belichick Productions really doing? Are they actually putting out anything? Or are they just kind of catching all of the highlights of however long he coaches at this venture? At this junction.
yeah,
I don't know. It's definitely weird though.
oh,
It's
it's
got to be a
probably
weird
just an
dynamic all around.
it's probably just an LLC that's built and they can throw money in it but here's what's crazy. He had to pitch this. You don't just like do it and then let your boss or the AD or the people at North Carolina know. You have to pitch it first. So imagine the conversation. Yes, so I'm gonna need Jordan to be doing some things, and so how we're gonna do it is she'll get paid by blah blah blah. And there had to be a meeting where they were like, now come again, say that again. What you're gonna have Jordan do what now? Well, yes, she's gonna be CEO of blah blah blah. And they're like, okay, I don't understand. What is she gonna be doing? Look, I need her to do this, okay? Do you want me to coach there or not?
Right.
Here you go, Bill. Like, that's how it went. Like, they probably don't understand it. They said, how much is it going to cost us? He's like, $67,000. Okay, cool. All right, done. Whatever. Like, it's not some crazy amount, I wouldn't think. And they're already paying him a crazy amount. So what's an extra 50 grand or whatever? So that now she can get her own little money and feel good. That's my take. Now, we could both be completely off, and she could like have like some actual skills on running social media. But dude, I have skills, T.I. has skills. I mean, we collectively have, between me and T.I., have up more than 50,000 followers, and we're just ugly idiots. So if we can do it, I'm sure a 24-year-old, you know, model / whatever she is, can also run social media. But it's just weird. So again, speaking of social media, be sure to follow Sports Idiot Nation, Hoops Idiot Nation. We got Turtles Idiot Nation. We got
Gridiron
Puck,
Idiot Nation.
Gridiron,
Puck Idiot Nation. Racing Idiot Nation.
Racing, yep.
Turtles,
Shout out to
said.
Devin. Yeah. We got more coming. T.I. is working on more stuff. Okay, I want to ask you about this.
More stuff. What else? What else we got?
So I want to ask you about this. With the draft coming up, what team makes sense for two guys come to mind? Shedeur Sanders and Aaron Rodgers. Because did you hear the story? Because it came out on Pat McAfee of the 5-minute meeting that the Jets had with Aaron Rodgers. Did you hear about it? I have all the details. Not. Okay, here we go.
Drop the deets.
So Aaron Rodgers paid for his own flight. He lives in California, where he's from, and he booked his own flight, met with the Jets organization. They called him up and said, "Hey, let's meet." And this was a while ago. This wasn't just this week, because we know that the Jets let him go. We already know that, but I'm explaining how it went down. All right. So Aaron Glenn was the defensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He is now, and he was a great New York Jet player. And so he's now the coach. So they called Aaron Rodgers in. He booked his own flight, met with them. The GM's in the room, and then the coach comes in, sees the GM, runs out real quick, comes back. Do you want to play football this year? And Aaron's like, sure. I think I'd like to. Let's talk about it. Well, we're going in a different direction. And Aaron is talking to Pat McAfee. He's explaining the story. And he says, I was shocked, not that they want to go a different direction necessarily. Teams do that all the time. I get it if that's what they want to do. But this could have been a phone call. I booked my own flight out there. All that to say, do you want to play football? And then however I answered, it wasn't going to matter.
Right.
Because you were going to let me go, quote unquote, anyway. This could have been a phone call. Remember in Dark Knight where Morgan Freeman flies all the way out to China or Japan, wherever, to say he can't do the deal? Now, really, we know he was there to get Bruce Wayne there to be Batman and to bring that guy because they had no jurisdiction. But remember, he said, I think a phone call would suffice. You know, that was like the same thing. Like, dude, you're going to let me go in 5 minutes? Like, why couldn't you just call me? And they're like, well, we didn't know how you wanted to spin it, how you wanted it to be on social media. And he said, dude, I don't care. I don't care. Say whatever you want to say. I don't care about that. Like, I just like, wow. So, but as we know, Aaron Rodgers still does not
He
have
still hasn't
a
declared,
team.
hasn't said anything. We don't know
And
of anybody interested in him necessarily.
He met with Pittsburgh, and Mike Tomlin was real coy about it and just said, hey, we had good meetings, and yeah, I'm excited. Okay, that tells us nothing. They got Mason Rudolph is their basically only quarterback because
they got him back from
Justin Fields from Tennessee. So Justin Fields went to the Jets and let Russ cook, is now cooking in New York with the Giants with Jameis Winston.
Right.
So I don't know if, I mean, the Steelers have never been an offensive juggernaut. They have a defensive-minded coach. They're known for their defense. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers wants to go there. I think he wants to go to Minnesota and not have J.J. McCarthy play right away. But I don't know where, if that makes sense. I don't think the Giants make sense. But for Shedeur Sanders, that's the other one.
You think somebody will pick him up for sure just because he's Aaron Rodgers? I start to wonder at a certain point, you get older. I know in the NBA, people hold out for contracts and then never get picked up and end up, heading overseas to play and didn't see that one coming kind of situation.
Teams. You're telling me not one team wants Aaron Rodgers?
True. That's true.
Not one? You don't need 20 teams to like it. You only need one.
But he's not a player that's probably going to take backup money to just sit on the bench.
No. And I mean, there's got to be a team out there that wants him to start. I mean, I'm just saying.
Like you said, there's not a whole lot of open plugs to be plugged into anymore. A lot of the holes are kind of getting filled. I don't think Tennessee's interested. I hope they aren't. I like Aaron Rodgers. He's a solid dude, but Tennessee makes dumb decisions with quarterbacks. I hope that's not one they would make,
So, and now that is a team. Look, okay, I'm going with the NFC first. All right, you have the Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and Giants. Giants, okay, they have Jameis Winston and Russell Wilson. I feel like that doesn't make sense for Aaron Rodgers. Then you have the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, and the Bears. Okay, out of that, the Vikings do make some sense. They have a good defense. They have one of the greatest receivers ever to start a career. His numbers are insane. And then NFC South, the Buccaneers, the Falcons, the Panthers, and the Saints. Not one of those makes sense. I think they're too crappy of teams. The ones that could make sense, like the Saints, could make sense, and the Panthers, but why would he go there? Like, they're not contenders at all. And they like their situations, I think, in Atlanta and Tampa Bay. They're not going to beat Aaron Rodgers. Then you have the Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, and 49ers. None of that makes sense.
No.
I don't think. And then, so that's the entire league. That's the NFC. Then in the AFC, the Bills, Dolphins, obviously not the Jets, and the Patriots. Okay, none of those make sense. They all have their quarterback. Then the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and Browns. And I think the Steelers, they have your guy. They have your guy from last year, who's the only quarterback, basically, Mason Rudolph.
But they've never really used him as a starter unless they had to.
No, he was a bridge guy always. Yeah, to patch up if someone was hurt. Mm-hmm. You have the Titans, the Jaguars. The Jaguars are set. The Colts, I mean,
probably
again, they're not really contenders. I don't think the Colts and the Texans are for sure set. And then the Raiders, Broncos. Now, the Chiefs, Chargers, and Broncos, they're set with franchise quarterbacks. The Raiders, they got they got what's his name from Seattle? Oh crap, what's his name? Throws all the interceptions. He was with the Geno Smith.
Yeah.
The Raiders have him. He's their guy. I mean, he's not a franchise quarterback, but like, he's their guy. Why would they get him and then have Aaron Rodgers? So no one in the AFC West makes sense.
I could see something like that. maybe Pittsburgh, maybe Las Vegas, but in Minnesota you mentioned too. Those
And
make
that's
sense.
about it.
That's
those
about it.
three
He
teams
might want to come to Tennessee, but I hope they've been like, stop, just stay on the
but
plane.
Well,
We'll save you the trip that New York
for
didn't.
both sides, it doesn't make sense. Why would he want to go to a crappy football team? Like, it doesn't,
Right.
He wants to go to a team that has won some games and has a chance to make the playoffs. I don't think Tennessee is there for maybe 2 more years, see how their drafts go the next 2 years. And I just don't see it. So it's just weird,
I don't
though.
know what the hell's going on as a Titans fan, so I'm not gonna Titans by 50 anything right now.
Which, again, by the way, remember to stay locked in, because Thursday we will talk about the Titans a lot since they have the number 1 pick, and we'll go through what I've liked.
We earned it, baby. We earned it.
You earned it fair and square. I like on social media, on Facebook for sure is where we have the most followers. And shout out to T.I., who's been heading up this, where draft busts over the years we've been posting. And there's just been some really cool, Ryan Leaf, and just some great NFL bust from, remember the dude from LSU throwing 70 yards from his knees, Jamarcus Russell. He was going to be the biggest thing since sliced bread. And just abysmal, just so terrible. And Johnny Football and all these guys not watching their iPad, not watching film. Like, it's just
the NFL,
crazy.
the NBA as well, but definitely the NFL, there can be a huge fall off almost immediately from college. Like, they just came to get the check and never really wanted to be there, or they're just not ready for that next level. I guess it could be a couple of different factors, but man, I'm guessing it just must be that huge of a jump from the college level to the NFL. That's what I've heard about the basketball world too. Every division you jump from, high school to college to NBA is going to be a big difference in speed and how fast the game is played. I'm sure the NFL is probably even worse than that, because it's football is a very complicated game. We've talked about that before.
It's more people.
More people, but there's also so many more, intricacies and little rules that, okay, in this case, this happens, but because that happened last time, we're not doing it that way. Little things that you got to know football really well to your game IQ is huge in any sport, but football is one of those ones where, like, I'm not even trying to teach my kid how to play that. I wish he could understand what a basketball screen is at this point. I'm up here at the thing looking like the guy from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like, watch him, he's gonna come this way and he's gonna stand there and he's gonna bam, you see that? That's it. It's a screen. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. He's like, can we put it on paper? We're like, we can, but
yeah.
I just wish they'd run a couple more screens in this live action game we're trying to use for film right now. But no, man, we're still on Aaron Rodgers, right? Where are we sending him? Or where is he going to end up? Can he just get a boat and go with the Houston Rockets and the Warriors?
Right, with the Warriors.
Just send him on the boat with them.
Full circle, huh? I just think it's weird that the draft is like hours away. We're like 100 hours or so away from the draft, and the team that has to draft doesn't know if they need to draft a quarter. Like, you are like handcuffing a team where the draft is a huge deal. You need to have a good draft if you're any one of the teams that we mentioned to be in the top tier. A couple 2 guys can make a difference. Why don't you ask Philadelphia how they did drafting? And those guys made plays, and they just got drafted in the last 2 years. So, and I hate saying that Philadelphia did a great job drafting. I hate the Eagles, but they crushed it. So that do you draft the same way if you know Aaron Rodgers is coming? Do you get him an offensive, weapon or a lineman?
So you still think there's a chance Tennessee, or you're just talking about other teams?
I'm saying in general.
In general. Okay.
I don't think he'd go to Tennessee, but in general, the Steelers how do they know if they're supposed to draft a quarterback? There's 4 or 5 out there. How do they know? Or
are they waiting to see who they could get and then make the decision? But that does seem like a tough way to run a business as big as a football team.
Yeah, no kidding. And I just think, come on, Aaron Rodgers. You've had 3 months, dude, to go in your cave, to do whatever. You have to let the team know. Is he going to wait till the season starts and see if a contender's quarterback gets hurt and then he can go fill in? I just don't get it. It's weird. We'll see how it shakes out. We may hear some news on Thursday.
Maybe he'll be spear fishing underwater with Ryan Tannehill next season.
And LeBron
that does seem to happen to
James.
Quarterbacks. And LeBron James, yes.
When Ant sends him swimming, fishing.
That's right.
So full circle. We like to come full circle always on Sports Idiot Nation. Remember to follow us on social media. Remember to follow all the Idiot Nation, the Idiotverse, but of course Hoops Idiot Nation, as playoffs are in full swing. They're not in full swing in the Eastern Conference. They're just pretty normal. But it's in full swing in the Western Conference.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of good games, a lot of overtimes, a lot of the opposite seed is winning. And so the Western Conference getting juicy. The Eastern Conference, get back to us in a week or so. We'll see how it goes. Because I do think it can get juicy when it's the Cavs and Celtics, but that's not going to happen for an awful, awful long time. I don't really trust teams like the Pistons or the Knicks. Did you know the Knicks are 0-8 against the top 2 seeds?
Yes, I saw a stat like that because the Grizzlies have a very similar stat line against the top 2 or 3 teams. It's like we haven't beat OKC or any of these other teams at all. Yeah. So I didn't have super high hopes unless just miracles happened. But yeah.
So we're not excited about the East as we are about the West. So that'll do it for us today. Again, remember, follow wherever you get your social media, and we will see you Thursday. Okay, all you sinners, follow Sports Idiot Nation on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, and remember, the most fun way to watch us is on YouTube every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be updated when new content drops. Remember, the podcast can also be found on the usual suspects of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always remember, don't be an idiot.
Sinner.